Hi, everyone. Eric Olsen from Helps YouTube Live. Today, July 3rd. Happy to have you here. I'm coming to you from a remote location here. Trust you can hear me okay. If you can hear me okay, please press the button. Or not press the button. Let me know on the chat feature that you can hear me. And I'll try to answer your questions, okay? So Mary says, Capital One has filed suit against me, just waiting on the process server to serve me. It came yesterday, but I didn't answer the door. Well, you don't need to be scared if you've been sued. Okay? Let me explain why. Okay? So my name's Eric. I'm the founder of Helps. Helps is a national law firm that represents seniors and disabled persons who owe debt they can't afford to pay. And our most important message to seniors and disabled persons is that federal and state laws protect your Social Security, your retirement income, and disability income. It can't be taken or garnished from you, even if someone were to sue you and get a judgment. Then you might ask, well, can they take money out of my bank account? Well, there's a federal law that was passed in 2012 that provides that if a bank gets garnished, they examine your bank account. And if money came from a federal source such as Social Security or a federal pension, whatever that money is, they times that you get each month, they times that times 2, and they automatically protect that sum of money, even if some of the money in your account came from another source. So if you got $1,000 in Social Security each month, $2,000 is automatically protected in the bank account to which it's deposited. So, you don't need to be worried. You don't need to be worried. You could talk to the lender and you can accept the papers from the process server. Okay. If you're a member of Helps, we need a copy of them. We usually only need the first 3 or 4 pages. And we're going to send a letter to the attorney who sued you. We're going to let the attorney know that your income is Social Security. It's protected. And we understand they're going to get a judgment. Remind them of the protected nature of your bank account, although it doesn't matter because it's protected no matter what. Okay, so, and then we're going to call you on the phone, explain why you don't need to worry about the lawsuit. You don't need to appear in court, so you're going to be fine. Okay, so that's our message to seniors. And if you have questions, put them in the chat group. So what if you have few sources of income, but the balance is always less than 2 times? It's protected. It doesn't matter where the money came from. All the bank has to do is if they see you've got money from Social Security, for example, whatever that amount is, they times that times 2. That amount in your bank account is protected. They don't have to determine if there's money in that account that came from somewhere else that wouldn't be protected. No, they just protect twice the amount of your federal benefit, regardless of what funds are in the bank account. Now, I would guess that maybe 1 out of 1,000 attorneys understand that rule. So if you ask an attorney, they're probably not, they're going to give you the wrong answer. They don't teach that anymore. Now, this rule's been in effect since 2012. But that's the law. Now, you don't have, if you ask your bank manager, I kind of doubt he's going to understand this, but see, that's not his job. He doesn't have anything to do with garnishments. Okay. There's a department in the bank that handles the garnishments. I assure you, they understand the rule. Now, if you happen to have more than that in there, it could be held up, but you get it released by filing a challenge to garnishment or claim of exemption. We help people do that. If you have very low balance in another account, would they still levy it? If it's in the same bank, they could take that money and you could lose it. So that's why we tell people it's better idea to have just one account to which your money goes. And if you have another account, just make an absolute minimal amount if you're required to have it. Now, the chances of you being garnished are probably pretty remote. First they have to sue you, get a judgment. They have to know where you bank. And that's not always easy to know where you bank. Okay? So you're going to be okay, bottom line. The whole purpose of Helps, if you're new, if you have a question about whatever we talk about today, you can always call and talk to us, no matter how often. Helps was designed so we can help seniors and disabled persons who owe debts to stop collectors from harassing. And when you enroll in helps, you give us the creditors you owe money to. We send them out what's called a cease and desist letter. Under federal law, if you're represented by an attorney, debt collectors have to leave you alone. That's what we do. We represent seniors so that the collectors aren't going to bother you anymore. Okay? So I got some questions or things to talk about as we go on. Person wrote in and they said, what does a debt collector lawyer need when they make a hardship request? Well, there technically is no thing such as a hardship request. Normally, a debt collector, you might think, well, gee, if I tell them that I'm poor or I'm on Social Security, they're going to leave me alone. Normally not the case. They're under no obligation to tell you what your rights are. And there's no formal proceedings to get a, quote, a hardship request so they don't bother you. Now, they may have a form within their own organization to do that, but I don't hear about that very often. So there's nothing formal that you give them. I mean, when people enroll in helps, if a creditor asks us, we send them a cease and desist letter and they say, well, we want proof that their income is Social Security. Then we ask our clients when they enroll in helps to give us a copy of their Social Security statement. And then so that we can send a copy of that, we black out the personal information. We can send that to the debt collector or the attorney for the debt collector so they can see that our client's income is protected. We think it makes it less likely they would choose to sue someone. Not that it matters if you are sued. It doesn't matter if you are sued. Like I've explained, your income's protected. Don't have to go to court. You're going to be fine. But no one likes to have people knock on their door and give them legal papers. And if we can make that less likely to happen, that's what we're going to try to do. So this person contacts us. They say, due to some health issues and other matters, I'm going to have to surrender my RV. It's going to go back to the credit union. When can I legally cancel the insurance on it? They're going to surrender an RV and a car. Well, if you're not going to drive it and it's just going to be parked, then you could cancel the insurance immediately. You need to have it insured if you're going to drive it, because if you drive it uninsured and you get caught driving, your license could get suspended. Okay. Now, if you cancel the insurance and you're not driving it, it makes it more likely that the lender would pick up the vehicle sooner. Okay. Because they're going to get a notice from the insurance company that it isn't insured. So they're going to want to pick it up, make sure that they're going to put their own insurance on it, but they're going to want to pick it up sooner than later so that they don't have to worry about it being damaged or anything like that. So you can cancel the insurance immediately if you're not going to drive it. I have noticed that sometimes people say they're going to surrender an RV. It might take a little bit longer for an RV lender to repossess an RV. You don't have to deliver it to them. You can just leave it where it's at. If you're going to surrender an RV or a car and you're current on the payment, it's better to wait till you're behind on the payment and then they're calling you about the missed payment, and then you tell them you can't afford it and you want to surrender it. If you try to tell them that when you're current, you may never get through to the right person, But if you're behind, the person that calls you when you're behind, they'll know what to do. But if you're current on it, it could frustrate them and it'll frustrate you because they're not going to know what to do. All they're going to say is, well, you need to make a payment. They don't know what to do if someone's behind. Okay. But if you're behind, that person who talks to you will know what to do. Okay. This person contacts us and they say that they're over the top in credit card debt. They've tried to make payments. They've tried to make payments. Now, let's see, where am I? Okay, I lost that one, so I'm going to go on. I'm on my laptop, so it's not as handy. Um, so this person is calling about his sister, um, and he received a summons in regard to debt that she owes. She's 81 years old, declining health, and needs some help. And he says, I have her power of attorney, and I'm also a Florida resident. Please contact us as soon as possible at the contact listed above. My sister's most immediate concern is to respond timely to the summons that she got and be able to avoid a bankruptcy if possible. We appreciate your help with this matter. Well, yeah, if you're helping a family member and you got, even you don't necessarily have to have your power of attorney, but if you do, that's fine. You can call us about your loved one, and we'll go over the situation. Sometimes we'll want to talk with you and the loved one together, but in this case, he's got power of attorney for his sister. And if the sister wants to, they can talk together with helps at the same time. She's been sued. The sister's been sued. Don't need to worry. Don't have to go to court. Don't need to file an answer. The sister's only getting protected income, Social Security, and maybe a little pension. And as far as avoiding bankruptcy, sister doesn't need to file bankruptcy because all her income is protected. It can't be taken from her, like I've explained. And we don't turn anyone away that needs our help. Okay. Person says, I have a federal tax lien. And he says the statute of limitations is in December 2025. Will I be relieved of this burden? Well, okay. If you owe taxes to the IRS, they have 10 years to collect the tax. After 10 years, there's a statute of limitations, they no longer collect the tax. However, if your only income is Social Security and maybe a pension, IRS may never do anything to try to collect on the taxes. The most they would ever do is send you a notice that they intend to offset 15% of your Social Security. But they would give you a notice before they do that, and the notice would say that you have 60 days before they would do that. Okay? Which means you'd have time to contact the IRS and get on what's called currently not collectible status. If you're a single person, you have income of about $2,500 or less, or a married couple and $3,500 or less, and even a little bit more, depending on where you live in the country, you can get on what's called currently not collectible status with the IRS and not have to pay the taxes at all. Now, if you have more than that, you may need to pay a little bit, but the taxes will naturally go away after 10 years, after they've been assessed and been due for 10 years, then they go away. Okay. So for a lot of reasons, you don't need to worry. Now, what if you owe state income taxes? Well, if you've been listening to me, you understand that if you owe state income taxes, a state tax collector can't touch your Social Security or your pension, and it's protected in your bank account, just like money in your bank account is protected from a regular debt collector or credit card debt collector if someone sued you and got a judgment. So if you owe the state taxes, you don't need to go without food or medicine to pay the state taxes. Now, the state tax collector isn't going to tell you that probably, but I'm telling you that. Okay? So you don't need to worry about state taxes if you owe them. Okay? Let's see if we got some questions here. You can only see me from the nose up. Well, there, now you can see. Is that better? I hope. Okay. Oh, it says, do you remember back in 1971 that a woman could not get credit cards? I just found that info from someone's channel. I was a child back then, but I do know that my mom did buy a home in 1970. I don't know if that's exactly the case. I'll look into that. Okay, I'll look into that. I don't know that that's true. Now, when I lean forward, I guess I disappear. Okay. Okay. This person says, I've been listening to your previous YouTube videos and I would like to know more. My spouse and I have two credit cards that unfortunately have large balances. Um, I did it again. I get on here and I'm on my laptop, and if I push it the wrong way, it goes pooey. So I may have to start with one of my other ones here. Okay, here's one. And this, if you've been listening to me, you guys know the answer to this one. But if you're judgment proof, Social Security only, no assets, is it worth the time and money to file Chapter 7? Well, probably not. Definitely not. That, I probably filed 30 to 40,000 bankruptcies. And I started helps back in 2012 because seniors would come to me to file bankruptcy, and I would tell them, hey, your income's protected. You don't need to file bankruptcy. No one can do anything to you. And then they couldn't afford bankruptcy. Bankruptcy is expensive. It's not cheap. But the problem was if I sent them home, I knew creditors were going to call them and make their lives miserable. So that's what helps does, is we represent you as your attorney under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, so creditors can't bother you and you don't have to worry about bankruptcy. Person contacts us says, I have a summons and I have 30 calendar days to answer it. I'm a single female, 70 years old, and I need help on how to handle the summons. You don't need to worry about the summons. If your only income is Social Security and you owe the money and you're not disputing it, you don't need to do anything. They can eventually get a judgment, but they're not going to be able to touch your income, and your money's going to be protected in your bank account, as I explained. Twice the amount of your federal benefit, like your Social Security, in your bank account is automatically protected from garnishment. So here we go. I'm starting to receive my Social Security benefits at age 62. I still work part-time to pay my credit cards, but my health is getting worse. I applied for Social Security disability in the past, was denied. And that's how I got so much debt running up my credit cards, over 20,000. I've seen your videos and I'm extremely interested in your program. Well, yeah, your Social Security is protected. Now you say you're working part-time. So if you're working, there's a federal law that protects $217.50 net. That's after taxes are taken out, in wages per week from garnishment. In the event someone were to sue you, got a judgment, and they happen to know where you work. Federal law protects $217.50 net per week. That's $435 every 2 weeks. It's about $950 a month. Okay? But some states protect a lot more than that. Some states, such as Texas, don't even permit a garnishment. So it kind of depends where you live. We don't have a problem with helps clients that are working, that are facing garnishment. First, the creditor would have to sue you, get a judgment, then they'd have to know where you're working. And a lot of times they would have no idea where you're working. So yeah, if you're in that situation, you want to talk to us, we'll be glad to go over it with you. We don't want you to worry. That's the whole purpose of helps, is if you do worry or are scared, you can always pick up the phone and call, no matter how often. Okay? Does anyone know how long a cashier's check is good for? Usually maybe 6 months, a year. It depends on state law. If you wait too long, you call the bank, they can declare the money's lost and it can go to the state, and then you'd have to contact the state to get the money. So it may, there may be a time limitation on it. Yeah, farmhouse says 60 to 900 days. I kind of think it's longer than that, but you'll want to check. What about funds in a rent escrow account? Good question. Is it protected? It technically might not be protected, but in 46 years of practice, I've never heard of any money such as that ever being garnished. If someone sued you and got a judgment, it matters who owns the money. If they're holding it for you and it's literally your money and you can demand the money back at any point, then I guess it could be technically subject to garnishment, but it's a practical matter. I don't think that would ever happen. Okay? Yeah, happy July 4th to everyone. So this guy calls us, he's 80 years old, he lives alone, but he has his grandson that's living with him when the grandson isn't going to college. Okay? He owns the home, free and clear, and he has no other assets, just his home. And he wants advice on placing my home in an irrevocable trust to protect it from debt collectors and to protect it in the event I would need medical care. I understand the trust has to have existed for 5 years. Yeah, that's if you're going to go get on Medicaid. We lost our business during the pandemic, and now I've exhausted all my financial resources. I've been existing on my credit cards, and now I have them all maxed out. My only source of income is $1,500 a month. So what could he do? Well, sometimes we talk to seniors about, if you have a revocable trust, then technically in most states, if someone sues you and gets a judgment, the judgment would be a lien. If it's an irrevocable trust, there's still a potential for a problem. One thing you could consider doing in this case is he could consider adding his grandson to the title to the home with him as a joint owner with survivorship rights. That's way, if he did go on Medicaid, he still owns the home. If he passed away, the home would automatically go to his grandson. And at his death, if there was a judgment against him, the judgment would disappear. So this kind of thing, we'd probably want him to call and talk to us. And we might refer him to a local attorney to deal with this. bottom line is he's not going to lose the home. And there's generally a way to protect the home for your children and your family. Said, I need to consolidate my debt. I am $7,000 in debt. I'm barely making my payments as I am on Social Security. I'm trying to pay the debt that I've incurred. What can I do to consolidate or reduce my credit card payments? So what HELP stands for is Help Eliminate Legal Problems for Seniors. We don't engage in debt settlement or debt management. That's not what we do. Okay. And you probably don't need that. Okay. If he's got $70,000 in credit card debt and he's living on Social Security and he can't pay the credit cards the way they are, he probably needs all his money just to be able to survive for food and rent and medicine and utilities. You could choose to stop paying the debt. Okay. You can try to pay it if you want, but you don't necessarily have to keep paying the debt. You can stop paying it. When you enroll in HELP, you give us the creditors you owe money to. We're going to send them a cease and desist letter, and they're going to leave you alone. One thing, if you are involved with debt management or debt settlement program, and you're a senior and you're listening to me, and you're making a monthly payment and you're struggling, the question I have for you is, when you enrolled with this company to help you with your debt, did they tell you what I'm telling you, that fact that your income is protected, that your Social Security is protected, so is your pension, and that you don't need to pay the debt? If they didn't tell you that, they weren't giving you complete information. Why didn't they tell you that? If they would have told you that, you would have realized that you didn't necessarily need their help. And did they tell you that you could be protected from collector harassment? No, they didn't tell you that. So that's an important message that seniors need to know, is that, if you're involved with debt management or debt settlement, you don't have to stay there. You can stop making the payment. And if you don't want to be harassed by creditors, you can contact HELPs. We don't turn anyone that needs our help away. The cost is absolutely minimal. For some of our clients, they get their help for free. You don't need to worry about the debt. You can be protected from collector harassment. You're going to be fine. Person says, I'm 76 years old. I'm trying to break my lease, but they won't let me. They want me to pay $4,000 to break the lease. I want to move because of harassment and abuse. Well, you don't need to pay them anything. If you're on a lease and you can't afford it anymore and you've got a place to live, you can move into that place, stop paying the payment, and you're going to be fine. You'll stay in where you're at. Now, if you're on a lease and you break it before you move, they could put some negative entry that might make it difficult for you to rent a place, more difficult. So in that case, you may want to find a place and get signed up on a place where you're going to live and be contracted with that new place before you stop making payment on the place where that you're living in now. Okay? Okay. Let's see if we got a questions here to deal with. Do collection agencies weigh the balance you owe versus what it would cost them to sue you before they decide to go forward with a lawsuit? It's a good question. Maybe sometimes they do. Maybe sometimes if the amount that you owe is really small, it won't be worth it for them to sue you. We have people that enroll in HELPs. I don't see too many people that enroll in HELPs that if they owe $1,500 or less, they get sued. Maybe a few do, but not very many. They may have, internal guidelines that they use to determine whether they file a lawsuit or not. But once again, if your income is Social Security or pension, it doesn't matter if they sue you or not. They're not going to be able to collect from you. You're not going to need to worry about it, Robert. Yeah. We tell our clients, if you're enrolled in HELPS and you get sued, we have you get us a copy of the summons and complaint, just the first 3 or 4 pages, and we send a letter to the attorney who sued you, let him know your income's protected. We call you on the phone, tell you why you don't need to worry, and send you an email that explains how your bank account is protected and your other assets are protected. Some states have limits to how many months you're responsible if you break a lease. Yeah. There's always little state laws. But once again, a lot of these little questions, there's like this overriding thing over all of them. It doesn't matter if you owe the debt or not. They can't collect from you. You don't need to worry about it. Okay. This guy calls us, he says, I'm 62 years old. I received a notice of a levy, and my sole income is Social Security. I'm not married, nor do I have any dependents. I'm not sure if I need to file a claim of exemption. My Social Security is direct deposit. My bank account is with Bank of America, who is also the creditor. I'm afraid they will freeze my account. I have to return any paperwork the next few days as they have to be mailed. Okay, and he goes on. Since it's Saturday evening, I did not bother to call the number for immediate help, but I will do so on Monday, should I not hear from anyone. And I get $1,200 in Social Security. Okay, that's an interesting question, and I'll answer it. So, looks like Bank of America sued him. They had a judgment, and then they garnished his bank account with Bank of America. Well, twice the amount of your Social Security is protected. He gets $1,200 in Social Security, $2,400 is protected, including from his own bank. Okay? Including from his own bank. So he's not going to, we're going to call this guy back, tell him he doesn't need to worry, they can't take anything out. Now, it is possible his bank account may have been held up for the weekend, but when the bank gets a writ of garnishment, they have like 48 hours, 2 days, to examine your account to determine if the funds in it came from a federal source. And if they did came from a federal source, then they can't, twice the amount is automatically protected. Doesn't need to worry. Person writes and says, I'm sued for a credit card bill I can't afford to pay. I have a court date for August 3rd, and I'm very nervous about having to go to court. I just found out about your information on YouTube videos, and I need help as soon as possible. Thank you very much for your time, help concerning this matter. I look forward to speaking with someone. I live in Massachusetts. Well, okay. He can't afford to pay his credit cards. He's been sued, and apparently on the lawsuit, they have a date that he's supposed to appear. But if you read that, if you are sued and it says you're supposed to appear at a certain date and time, if you read it carefully, that's only if you're going to defend the lawsuit. Okay? If you're not going to defend the lawsuit, then you don't need to worry about that. I mean, they can you don't need to go. They can get a judgment, but they can't collect from you. If your income is Social Security or pension, like I said, twice the amount of your federal benefits are protected. But don't think because if you get sued with a summons or a lawsuit and they say you're supposed to appear at a specific time, place, and time, doesn't necessarily mean you have to go there at that time. Now, if they already have a judgment and you get some other paperwork where they want to ask you some more questions, then my answer might be different. But not if you've just been sued. So he's not going to need to do anything. Yeah, his only income is $1,200 in Social Security. We may end a few minutes early today. Person writes and says, I'm not a senior. I'm 40 years old. However, I'm permanently disabled and my only income is Social Security disability. I believe this is also protected income. It is. Any form of Social Security or disability or VA benefit is protected. You don't, and helps can help you no matter how old you are. We've got clients in their 30s, 20s, 40s, 50s who are getting protected income like Social Security disability that have debt they can't afford to pay. It doesn't matter. Now, we talk a lot about seniors, but our help is available for anyone of any age. It's dependent on your source of income. Okay? Okay. This guy says, I watched your video on YouTube and I thought, man, this is great. And the person is worried about her spouse, her ex-spouse. And he said he has debt he pays monthly. Most of it's credit cards. There was a couple thousand on a vehicle. And I'm worried about when he might need to go into a living facility. Know nothing about this stuff. Just need some questions answered. Please call. Thank you. Yeah, we'll call her back and answer a question. It's like his only income is Social Security and a little bit of a pension. He can stop paying the credit cards. As far as the truck is concerned, I mean, if he's upside down on it, he could stop making the payment, let it go back, or if he needs to sell it, he could sell it, pocket the cash, spend it. We'll be able to answer the questions. So, Ms. A said, Eric, you mentioned that having a credit card with the same bank you bank with and you can't pay the card payment, will that affect your standing with the same bank and not paying? No. Exception would be Truist Bank. There's a federal rule that tells banks that they can't offset money out of your account if only Social Security is going into your bank account and you owe money to the bank. So they can't take money out of your account to pay the debt that you owe the bank. And for this person that I mentioned a few minutes ago that was being garnished, his only income was Social Security. They didn't try to offset money out of his account. They said they garnished the account, which is different than an offset. A garnishment is only when they sue someone, they get a judgment, then they can garnish. Then they have to follow the rule that's it's protected automatically. But if they didn't sue, if you had a bank account and you owe money to your bank and only Social Security is going in there and you wanted to stay with the same bank, you could do that. And we don't see banks kicking people out of their account out of their bank account, out of the bank if you have a bank account with that bank and you owe them money. Now, it's different with a credit union. If you owe a credit union, you don't pay them, they're going to eventually kick you out or they're going to try to take money out of your account to pay the debt you owe the credit union if you don't pay it. But banks are different, except for Truist Bank. Truist Bank is just like a credit union. Okay? I hope that answered your question. Yeah, because sometimes I'll talk to seniors and, they banked at the same bank for a long time and it's close to them and it's convenient and they may owe them on a credit card. And I'll tell them, okay, if it's a bank, you can still stay at the same bank. Now, what happens if you have money other than Social Security going in there? Well, then technically the bank could offset money out of the account to pay the debt you owe them. But we don't see that happening as a practical matter as long as some of the money that's going into the account is Social Security. I don't see them trying to take money out of the account if you have other monies going in there other than Social Security. In New York City, 3960 is protected from garnishment or freeze no matter the source. You're right. Different states have different rules. That is kind of unusual. That's not normal. Okay. And I'm not sure about that rule. I'm taking your word for it. So as we discuss these things, if you have questions that we're not talking about, don't hesitate to call us. 855-435-7787. 855 helps us or helps US. We have paralegals and attorneys online right now that talk to people. They're talking to people right now as we speak. If you have to get on our website, you can leave a message on our website. We'll call you back. I think we're closed tomorrow. It's July 4th. But we're going to be open bright and early Monday. Okay? So this guy calls and he says, my grandpa just got a court document saying that he's being sued by Discover Card. What do I have to get you next? Have you guys fight this for my grandfather? Well, we don't need to fight anything. Your grandpa's getting Social Security or a pension. He's protected. If your grandpa's a member of HELPS and you're helping him, then all we need is a copy of the lawsuit. We usually don't need the complete copy, just the first 3 or 4 pages. And we're going to send a letter to the attorney for Discover. Let him know your grandpa's income is protected. Grandpa isn't going to do anything. Doesn't have to do anything. They can get a judgment against him. We'll call Grandpa if we need to and explain to him why he doesn't need to worry. That's what we're here for. It'll be one grandpa talking to another grandpa, explaining to him why he doesn't need to worry. This is a common question. Do I need to take additional steps with my bank to protect my Social Security deposits from lawsuit judgment, or is it done for me by the bank? You don't need to take any additional steps. If you call the bank and ask them about this, you're just going to get frustrated. Your bank manager isn't going to know the answer, and neither are the tellers at the bank. But there's a department of the bank that deals with garnishments. They know the rule. They know how it's protected. They know. So you don't need to do anything. And you probably don't need to worry about it anyway. First, they'd have to sue you, get a judgment, know where you bank. But if they do all those 3 things and then they happen to file a writ of garnishment against your bank account, then your bank is going to protect that money for you automatically. Twice the amount you get in federal benefits each month. It's going to be protected. Okay. So we've spent 45 minutes today. I think I'm going to call it quits because it's July 3rd. I'm at a remote location. But I'm going to be here Monday, same time. And in the meantime, you can look at some of our other videos on our webpage. You can look at some of our other YouTube live videos. You can always call us toll free. I don't want you to worry because you don't need to worry. Your income's protected. You're going to be okay. So God bless everyone. Thank you. People find out about helps more from YouTube. Listen to YouTube videos than any other source. And have a great day, and I will talk to you Monday.